Hello class. Today I'm going to discuss why mixed martial arts competition should be regulated and legal in the state of Connecticut. It's currently in legislation right now and being voted on. We are one of the few remaining states in the United States where competition is not regulated and legal. In fact, there are 46 states where it is legal. Us, New York, and a couple other states are the only remaining ones where it isn't. So it seems a little ridiculous that when it's legal almost everywhere else in the United States and everywhere else in the world for that matter, that Connecticut should be one of the few remaining states where it's not. It really doesn't make any sense to me, but it's currently where we stand. One of the major reasons that people think it should not be legal is because they think it is this excessively violent, barbaric sport where competitors are out there trying to kill each other, but that's not the case at all. That couldn't be further from the truth. In fact, it actually has a higher safety record than boxing in most cases. There's been more deaths in boxing than there has been in mixed martial arts. It's actually very regulated. There are a large amount of rules that protect the fighters and make sure that the fighters are safe. In fact, fighter safety is one of the most important aspects of mixed martial arts to the officials. Fighters are not they're not out there just trying to take each other's head off and beat each other until the other guy can't possibly fight anymore. It just doesn't work like that anymore. People have this misinterpretation of the old days of mixed martial arts back in 1993 when it first started, where fighters were out there and they were just trying to kill each other basically. They were fighting with bare knuckles. It just doesn't work that way anymore though. There's no more bare knuckle fights. There's no more people out there just going crazy. In fact, when fighters fight, they wear protective gloves, much like these. They have padding on them that protect both their hands and help soften the blow on their opponent's face. Fighters are also, of course, wearing a mouth guard, which is designed to protect from concussions, and it's designed to protect their teeth getting knocked out. Back in the old days, that wasn't always the case. So the fighters make sure to have enough equipment to protect themselves. They also have a referee in the fight whose job is to constantly monitor the fight and make sure that the fighters are safe. If a fighter is on the ground and he's getting hit, he gets hit 3 or 4 times, he's not covering up, not protecting himself, the referee jumps in immediately and makes sure to stop that fight because he's here to protect the fighter for the future. If a fighter gets put in a submission, they're not stuck in the submission until they go to sleep like some people think. The fighter always has the ability to tap out. He ends the fight and he lives to fight another day. If the fighter doesn't tap out and he starts to lose consciousness from a choke or any submission like that, the referee will immediately stop the fight. The fighter who applied the submission wins, the other fighter loses. Everybody goes on to fight another day. Everybody's safe. If a fighter is locked in a joint lock, which happens sometimes in mixed martial arts, and the bone suffers any damage and the referee sees it bend the wrong way too far, the referee will jump in and stop the fight to protect the fighter for the long run. So this idea that mixed martial arts is unsafe is just incorrect. Of course, like any contact sport, there's risk involved, but there's risk involved in football, there's risk involved in boxing, there's risk involved in hockey. How many times do you see a hockey player suffer a career-ending concussion? It actually happens more in hockey than it does in mixed martial arts. So there's that reason that everybody talks about it being unsafe is really not true. It's no more unsafe than any other contact sport. The other reason that mixed martial arts should be made legal in Connecticut is because of the amount of money it can generate for the state. Anytime you have a big event like that at a venue in your state, you're going to draw a lot of money. You're going to charge tax on the tickets. You're going to stimulate business in the area because people will be coming into, let's say it's at the Hartford at the XL Center. People will be coming into Hartford to see the mixed martial arts event. And that's going to stimulate the restaurants in the area, the hotels in the area, not to mention the XL Center itself. And then the state, they make the money off the taxes. So it definitely stimulates the economy in the area during the time that it's there, and that alone is reason enough that it should be worth bringing it in. Another reason that it should be legalized is that it would be then regulated. As it stands right now, you won't really hear about it on the news or the radio because they're not advertised, but if you follow the scene, there are a ton of unregulated MMA fights taking place in Connecticut at various gyms because it is legal to train mixed martial arts here. So you'll see gyms having what they call smokers, and these are unregulated events where fighters will get together, they will fight their amateur fights, and there's no regulation involved. So it's up to the gyms to enforce the rules. You don't have properly trained and certified referees at these fights. This is where people can get hurt. But the fact is, people want to compete in mixed martial arts, so even if they have to do so legally, they will. And this is a higher risk for the fighters. By regulating the sport and legalizing it, you're taking that risk away. You're now making sure that all events that happen are properly sanctioned and regulated. And this prevents these underground fights from happening where fighters actually are at higher risk. They're, these events are going to happen no matter what. But if the sport is legalized, they won't happen anymore because now they can have sanctioned amateur mixed martial arts. And fighters would rather fight there because that counts towards their record. So when they want to turn pro and get into the UFC or Bellator or one of the big mixed martial arts promotions, they now have fights on their record that they can show. These underground amateur fights don't count towards a fighter's record, so they're fighting for nothing. They're not gaining anything out of it. They're just fighting because they love to fight and they love the sport. They love to compete, and that's fine. But the fact is, if they want to make it, they need to be able to have it on the record, and by regulating it, to be able to have it on the record, and now the state can control it and make sure that it's safe for the fighters. Earlier I mentioned that there's a lot of rules in mixed martial arts. These are some examples of some of the rules that are designed to protect the fighters. You can't kick or knee the head of a grounded opponent. A grounded opponent is defined as an opponent who has 3 points of contact touching the ground. So an opponent on his knees, an opponent on his back, those would be considered grounded opponents. This rule is obviously designed because if you knee somebody in the head when their head is up against the ground, you can do a lot more damage than you can with a punch. Obviously you need to be able to damage your opponent. It's the point of the sport. It's a fighting sport, just like boxing. But they put these rules in place for things that are excessively damaging because fighter safety is the most important thing to the regulators and the promoters. Another rule that's designed to keep things fair is that you can't grab the fence. The obviously most mixed martial arts events are fought in a cage. On this cage there is a fence. You cannot grab the fence, which prevents you from being taken down. So if your opponent is trying to wrestle and he's trying to take you down, you can't grab the fence to prevent that. This keeps it fair and it keeps it safe for all the fighters. So these are just a couple examples of some of the rules that are designed to protect the fighters and keep the fighters safe. If the sport was as barbaric as some of the lawmakers and people want you to think that it is, would they bother to prevent kicks to the head of a grounded opponent? No, they would let you kick your opponent in the head because it would make the fight more exciting. But they want the fighters to be as safe as possible in the context of the fight, and that is why they make these moves illegal. As I said before, a fighter always has the option to tap out in a fight. That's how we term a submission. So check out this quick video right here and you'll see what it looks like when a fighter taps out and how quickly the ref jumps in and stops the fight to protect the fighter. So as you see, he wasn't stuck in that submission, which is called a rear naked choke, by the way. He wasn't stuck in that submission until he went to sleep or until he passed out. As soon as he tapped on his opponent's arm, the referee grabbed him, they stopped the fight, both guys got up, fight's over, everybody's happy. Well, the loser's probably not so happy because, he lost. But the winner's happy, the loser gets to go on to fight another day. So as you can see, mixed martial arts is not this barbaric sport that it used to be, that opponents of it think it is. It's a regulated sport like any other sport. It has doctors on staff at every event. It has cut men to make sure that there's any cuts that are under control and to advise the doctor to stop the fight if it needs to be stopped. It is a perfectly safe, in terms of contact sports, a perfectly safe sport, and it's one that is just ridiculous that it's not legal in Connecticut when it's legal in 46 of the 50 United States. It just doesn't make sense. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.